my name is Silly and welcome back to the Little Reader's Corner. Today I'm talking about the 5 worst or most disappointing books of 2021. So these are all books that I was actually really excited about, one that I was like about, but I was really looking forward to these and I had high expectations, and for one reason or another they were just generally meh or had some weird plot points. Who knows? And I will also be discussing one DNF. There were more, but I'll talk about later why it was hard to track them. So without further ado, let's talk about the worst / most disappointing books of 2021. Going backwards from number 5, we have A Natural History of Dragons. Now, this book just barely made the list just because I was kind of generally disappointed with the last half of the book, and I was really enjoying the first half of this, and I am going to continue the series, but I was just kind of let down how things wrapped up, and also the slow pace in the beginning I enjoyed, but towards the end there were just some random dragon scenes that were tossed in, and it was going super slow, and then all of a sudden dragon attack and you're like, whoa, and then everything's super slow and fine again, and then all of a sudden dragons and you're like, oh my god. So I will continue with I think there's a special name for this series. Is there? Maybe? I don't know. But the Natural History of Dragons, or Memoirs by Lady Trent, I will continue these. It's just a little towards the end, so it just made the list. And then on a similar thread, I was really excited to read A Fall Love Story, and I loved the general premise of it, but just the execution and the writing style just really wasn't it for me. And there was a whole thing where somehow they were both journalism students, and the way that they went about it was just not at all journalism. It just really stressed me out. So just on a personal level, this just didn't mesh well with my own background. And then just the characters just didn't feel really fleshed out, which was really disappointing. The main character was kind of dislikable with how she kept treating other people, and the family rivalry that's supposed to be going on in this, it was really built up, and then towards the end it just felt kind of like a meager ending, and the explanation and the history behind it just felt a little rushed. So just overall, this just wasn't what I was expecting, and I was a little let down with that. But I still say, if you are interested in reading it, don't knock it till you try it, because I think these are just personal preferences of mine as well. Next on this list is another disappointment, which was The Maidens. Now, everyone was talking about how fantastic this book was going to be. I was also really excited about how this book was going to be. The beginning of it was interesting. I was intrigued. I was there for the story. I read this for a specific reading vlog that will be out very soon. The ending? What a dumpster truck fire. The explanation for who the murderer was and the reason behind this murder, and there were these murders happening at a university, and there's this psychologist who comes in because she has a personal connection to one of the girls that this is affecting, and she tries to help out, but she also has her own kind of dark past. And what a trash fire. I haven't even been able to write up a full review on this for Goodreads because I just don't have the words for like what a mess this was. And honestly, this should probably be my number 1 worst, but I was so intrigued and in it for the first part of this, and then it just got so unnecessarily weird. And just who it ended up being, like, it wasn't a good reason, it wasn't a good excuse, it was just for shock factor. Like, I know that, and I'm just really disappointed. Then we have at number 2, I think, yes. At number 2, we have 6 Angry Girls. Now, this is very short. I was also really looking forward to this, and the premise of it sounds fantastic. So it's this group of women, I believe non-binary people, who are in this high school, and they decide to all like recruit and band together to do this thing. What is it? Mock trial, right? So they band together to become a mock trial group to fight patriarchy and all these things. And there's also a whole thing with knitting. But all of the characters are so bland, and like all of them have a perspective. It's like 6 something perspectives. They're all so bland and lack so much personality, even though like they claim to be, like the book claims that they're such a like wonderful diverse group of people, but all of their like narrative voices sound exactly the same. There's nothing that really distinguishes them as people. They're just like, oh look, nah, hobbies, I don't know. Just all of the characteristics are just so plain, and it was just such a letdown of a book. It's like barely even 200 pages, and I started marking sections that were just making me so mad. It took me forever to read this book, and it put me on such a huge reading slump at the beginning of the year because it was just such a letdown. And the number 1 worst book and most disappointing book on this list, which I never thought would be here, and that's why it is here, because I was so disappointed because I was so excited about it, is Majesty. This is the 2nd book in the American Royals series. Apparently there's going to be a 3rd one, which there really shouldn't be. The first one I read in, I think, either 2019 or 2020, and it was one of my favorite books of the year. I loved it so much. I thought it was fantastic. So when this came out, I was beyond thrilled, beyond excited. I read it. What the hell is this? What the hell? This book shouldn't have existed. It didn't need to exist. The previous book had the most fantastic ending. It wrapped up things so beautifully. It left some mysteries and some open doors, and it was wonderful. Now this book does all of the romantic twists of the first one again. So it's like, oh, you had a happy couple? Great, let's twist and turn everything again, because everything needs to be a mess to tell a story. And no one can be happy if you're telling a romance, apparently. And then the ending was so generic and so predictable that it was just such a disappointment, and I was so excited about this. So unfortunately, this is the worst book of the year, and I'm just so sad because the first one was so amazing, and I just don't know what happened here. And apparently there's a 3rd one. Why? Like, what else can happen? Like, I know what's going to happen because the ending of this, but like, what's the story going to be? I don't understand. I don't understand. Now, the one DNF I have on this list is the only DNF I can actually remember from last year, even though I know I DNF'd a lot of books, but this is the last one that I DNF'd, and Goodreads is the worst at tracking DNFs, because if you DNF something, it logs it as you have read it, and I usually will DNF something in the first 50 or so pages, because I'm like, in that point, like, I will know whether or not I'm feeling it or not, or if I'm interested or not, and I'm not going to waste my time. And I feel so uncomfortable marking it as having been read if I only read 50 pages of like a 600-page book. Let me know what your thoughts are on that, because I don't know what to do. Like, there is no other way to log it. I think you can like just delete all of your progress and mark it as want to read, and then you have to like mark it again as DNF, but like it's a whole process and you gotta remember that. Anyways, my one DNF, which was the latest one that I did just like a week or 2 weeks ago, that's One Day in December. I talked about this in my winter TBR, which came out so recently, so you're probably like, Sully, what? So the reason I DNF'd this, I started reading it before that TBR went live, and this was just, it's supposed to be about 2 people and their lives every December for like 10 years, I think. And they keep meeting each other over and over again, but like she fell in love with this guy when she was on the bus for like 10 minutes, and she was like, this is the one. And then it ends up being, this is like in the first chapter, so I'm not spoiling anything, it's even on the back of the book. And then her friend ends up dating this guy, and it has what looks like a whole like cheating trope during the entire thing, because she's so in love with him but he's with her best friend, and apparently that's the whole story. And I didn't know that going into this. This just looked like a cute winter romance, and no, also the writing style is just so, I'm not interested. So those are all of the worst books, most disappointing books and DNFs of the year. I don't know what to say. I'm disappointed is what it is. I am disappointed, so I guess that's that.